This is lesson 4 in referential functions. So if you've not already added a tab for problem 4, go ahead and click on this little plus sign way down at the bottom of the screen, add your tab, double click on it, name it problem 4, and then get out of that tab by either hitting enter or clicking a cell back in the spreadsheet. Pause this recording if you need to do that before we continue. What we're going to do here is going to get the data that we created in problem 2. So go back to problem 2 and click in cell B2. And then hold your shift key down while that cell is highlighted. While B2 is highlighted, hold your shift key down and click in E17 or in the very lower right corner of your data set with the shift key down. And you'll see it highlighted the entire data spread within that range. And so now we can hit Control C to copy all of it. I can tell it's copied because it has this vibrating line. You don't have to use Control C. I like to use Control C, but you could also use your copy paste tools here, or you could right click to copy. So now this is copied. I can tell by this vibrating line around it. I'll go to problem 4 and I'm going to click in cell. Let's put it here in B4, I think. And I'm going to use Control V to paste it, but you could also use your tools up here, or you could right click and select paste. So this is the kind of data set that we're going to be working with and that you will have throughout the semester. So first off, I'm going to write down the functions for copy paste. So copy is Control C, paste is Control V. And I don't know why I find these easier to use myself. Now, the first function that we're going to use today is going to be a count function. I want it to count all of the values. I want to make sure that I know exactly how many data sets we can see we have these children numbered, but I still want you to know this function because you'll be using it when we get to larger data sets. So the function to count is equals count A, and then parentheses, a range. So let's go ahead and use it to make sure that we have the right number. I'll type count here just to indicate that that's what I'm doing. So this will be like my header. I'll make it bold by highlighting it and clicking Control B. And now I'm going to use my function, typing in just as I did, equals count A, so count all, opening parenthesis, and now I'm going to select the range. Let's say I just wanted to count these children. So, but let's be careless and click more than that. Let's just say, oh, I clicked a whole bunch of cells. I stayed in that row. It's going to count the number of values the number of cells that have values in it. So let's hit enter, and you can see that it counted 15 just as we should have it do. I want you to observe something. I'm going to copy this, and if I just click in the cell, you can see the formulas up here, the cells here, don't double click, and hit Control C to copy it. And let's just copy it down a few rows. So right now this is highlighted. I have selected these rows, these columns, these cells, and I'm going to hit Control V. Let's take a look at what exactly happened here. So first off, I'm going to click off that so it's no longer copied. First off, we have this. If we click up here in the formula bar, we can see what it was counting. It counted all of these cells. They're blue. The blue is up here, so we know what we counted. Hit your enter key to get out and click in the next. And look what this counted. It moved over one. So this cell counted the first row, but when I clicked in the next cell and pasted it, the whole reference system moved over. Let's look what it counted here. It moved over, the formula moved over, and the reference moved over. Let's look what it counted here. The way I get it to show up like that is I place my cursor into the function bar and then it shows me. And so then you can see what's here. So that is the referential function in our last cell here. You can see there was nothing there, so it counted 0. That's the referential function in Excel, and it's extremely helpful and will save us a lot of time. I'm going to delete this column. What I did is I clicked on the blue on the G up here till when that arrow came, and I'm going to right click and delete it because it's in the way. It's getting in the way of my ability to write. So the next function that we're going to do is our sum function. So we're going to, I'm going to get my pen back out here. And I guess we'll maybe choose purple for a while. And so let's use our sum function. So sum, you already know, we're just going to go equals sum. But now instead of typing numbers in, we're going to select a range. So let's find out if we added the ages of all these kids together, how old would it be? So here's our sum. And so let's type in now our equal sign, sum, and let's select the first child's age, which is 12. I'm placing my cursor in it. And when this white cross appears, you can just drag down. And now it's typed in that range for us. It's selected C5 to C19, hit enter. And we can see now that we have our answer, if we added the ages together, is 126. So we can see the formula here. It's telling us what exactly we did. It's blue. This is the blue that we summed. We can see we got the correct age. So now let's figure out the average age. So average, as we'll be talking about very soon, but we're just going to we're going to do the formula manually here. Average equals the sum of all the values divided by n. And n is just the number of values. And we just counted them. So let's go and do this formula. So equals, now we already calculated the sum. So let's click on that cell where the sum is. And we divide by, and we already counted the number of values. So let's click on the cell with the values and enter. And so now if we click back on that, we can go back up to the formula bar and we can see this red and the blue. So it's telling us we took the blue H7, this cell, and we divided it by the count, and we can see the red corresponds with the red. And so we'll hit enter. And so the average age of our children is 8.4. And so let's do another one in a little bit different way. We haven't yet summed up the number of siblings, but we still know we're going to have 15 because we did count it. So let's go ahead and do a longer formula to get the average. Let's type equals sum. We have to sum them up now because we didn't do it yet. Put our opening parenthesis. Let's, right in the middle of this formula, we have that white cross so we can select the range. Let's put a closing parenthesis. And now let's divide by, and here's our n, 15. Let's hit enter. So the average number of siblings is 2.5. And let's go up and see what the problem did. It took this range and summed them. We can see because this is the blue, and it divided by this number 15. And that's all correct. And so this should be an accurate number. Now there's another way of doing average that we'll work on later, but for now it's really important that we just do it this way. And let's do one more fun little function that you won't use for a while. We're going to use count if, and this is going to count all the values that meet a certain condition. And so what we're going to count up is how many children were born in spring, summer, fall, winter. And we could just count these manually, but we don't want to do that because it just takes more time. And we have this function now, and what we call is the frequency. And that's a word that we'll be working with that just means how many individuals fit that category. And so I'm going to make this bold because it's a new heading. So now I have a little chart here. I don't like it right where it is. It's too close to our previous work. So I'm going to use my cut function, which is Control X. And I'm going to move it down a row. So here I'm going to hit Control X, or I could use those other tools. And I'm just going to click where I want the upper right corner to be. And I'm going to hit Control V. And now it moved it down for me. Cut and paste. You can also just use right on your menu. So let's get some frequencies here. Now for this one, I often choose the formula bar. So let's go ahead and get count if. I see it there already. See it right down here? So I'm going to click on it. You might have to type it more. And let's see if we can get this right. So we're wanting to count, first off, the number of children who had births in spring. So let's select this range. So now it's typed that range in for us. And the criteria, let's put in parentheses, in quotation marks, the word spring. Let's see if it'll work this way. I'm not sure if I need the quotation marks. I think this is. So let's go ahead. Mine is a little sluggish here today. For whatever reason, it's telling me the answer here, but it's just having a little trouble transferring it to the cell. So I'm going to pause a minute while it works. Be patient with Excel. Pour a little cup of tea. There's my OK button, and then I think it'll work this time. Yeah, I don't know why it's a little sluggish. Now, my computer was just a little sluggish working that formula, so maybe I don't want to use the function again. So let me go ahead and let's see if we can copy the function and just change the word. So click on your function where it says the 5, Control C, and click in the cell below it and hit Control V. Now let's look up here and see what happened, because what I see is that it changed the number from spring to summer. So let's see what happened here. So I'm going to hit enter and look at the first cell. So in our first one, it counted all the times the word spring appeared in this list. Let's see what changed, why it came up with 4 the next time. Oh, it moved down 1. So this is our referential cell function, but this time it's not doing us well because we want it to keep counting the values here. And so if you don't want it to be referential, so what we really want is for it to stay counting in row 5 and to stop counting in row 19. We want it to stay with 5 and 19. So there's a couple things you could do. First off, you could just go up to your formula and you could change this to 5 and change this to 19. And now we have the correct number. But if you have a lot of these to do, and then, there's one more thing we have to do to get summer. We have to go into these quotation marks and type in summer. And so now, let's see if it's correct. It's counting all the times the word summer appeared in this list. Okay. And so that worked very well, but it's kind of tedious to always have to change the formula, at least to change the cell references. So let's do something up here in our very first cell. Now this will seem like the weirdest thing ever, but if we go into our formula and we put the $sign before the row, I want it to stay in row 5. So I'm going to put a $sign before that 5. And I want it to end at row 19. So I'm just going to put a $sign there too. Let's see what happens now. So hit enter and then go back and click in that we just did. And let's see if we paste it down here, if it still counts all of the spring values and gets us to 5. And you can see that it does. So look what we have here. Now we have exact same thing. It's selecting the right rows and columns. And now we just have to change the spring to fall. And we should have an accurate count. And let's do the same one more time. Control C. Let's paste it down by winter, Control V. Let's check, it's still got 4, and it's still selecting all the right cells. And so let's change that fall to winter. All right, and so now we have our frequencies. And now we can actually, if we want, figure out what percent of children were born in each season. And we can do that by figuring out, well, first let's get the total. So I'm going to write total here. I'll put it in capitals so we can see that this is a sum row. And let's go ahead and type equals sum, opening parenthesis, and let's select these. And we know that's 15. So now let's use this information though. Now we're going to figure out our percent by taking each number, each frequency. So there were 5 children in spring. Let's click on that frequency and divide by the total. It looks like 1/3, and that's correct, 5 divided by 15. Now we could write this formula again, equals for summer 3 divided by 15, 20%. Let's do a little change here and change these to percents. So we're going to be getting data in each of these cells. Let's finish our calculations. Equals 4 divided by 15 and equals, we'll click in this cell, divided by 15. We know all our percents, but I want them to look like percents. So I'm going to select all 4 of these and right click. And then let's go to Format Cells. And let's click on percentage. I don't want any decimal places in there. So I'm going to make that into 0. And now that looks a lot nicer, doesn't it? We've just done the very first thing you're going to be doing, which is to make frequency charts. So this is a frequency chart. And if we wanted it to show up here, we could, select on this and kind of put a box around it or something like that, if we wanted it to look nice. So I've gone to Format Cells and I'm going to put an outline around it. And now we've just made a frequency table. And so this is an example of some things that we can do. So the last thing that I'm going to write here, let's write this formula, equals count if, and then first you put the range, then a comma, and then the value. And if the value is words, use quotation marks. All right, and you can use your countif function as well. The last thing I'm going to just write, we'll be using this, but I'll remind you lots and lots and lots of times. If you want to keep one cell or one range, all right, if you want to work with one cell or one range, and the trick is use $ in formula before row and or column. And so I'll be showing you all of these things lots more times, but this is just an overview.